I know how to say your name. Danuta Tomzynski.
That's right.
Danuta. And that's a Polish name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Polish, 100% Polish.
both sides, obviously. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Were your parents immigrants?
Yes.
First, so they were.
I'm first generation.
You're first generation. So they came over. When did they come over to America?
Okay, we'll start that story.
Yeah, why not? It's
They,
an interesting. I mean, you have an interesting name.
Yeah, they met and married in Los Angeles.
Mhm.
So they came over independently of each other. So during wartime, my dad wanted to leave Poland and went up through Lithuania and was going to go to England. And he was taken by the Russians, the Soviets, to be, when they would send everybody to Siberia. At that time, they weren't an ally, right? So they would just take Poles and send them to Siberia.
Mm.
And my mom came from like a farm family, and so she really wanted a higher education. And there was like 7 kids, and they were like, "Nope, you got to go work or something." And she was a teenager, I think she was about 15 or so, and was working out away from the family. And the Germans came in during the occupation. They would take like a square kilometer and take everybody from that kilometer and take them, like decide who went where. Camp, whatever, indentured servants, which she was.
Were you Jewish? Were your
No,
family? No, okay.
Catholic.
Yeah.
They would just take people, and she was young, pretty, healthy, and
Right.
so they put her in a German family, a farm family in Germany.
Mm.
And she was just basically a slave, indentured servant in Germany, but was spared her life. And then
But she had to deal with the occupation of Germany when they come in, right? Bombing
Right.
and all that other stuff.
all of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she stayed there. She did want, like I said, more education, and she knew that if she went back to the family, it was, just work and all that. So she, through the Catholic relief, she came to America, immigrated through, I think she came in through New Orleans on a ship.
Is this like 46 kind of time frame?
No,
or?
this is in like early 50s.
Okay. So
50. She stayed in Germany, for years and just didn't know what to do. I mean, she was like, after the war, she took her sheet and made a dress out of it, had it made of the dressmakers, just trying to, scrape everything together.
yeah, she had no money.
Right.
Basically no family.
And young. Yeah.
She's like 25 when she comes over here?
25. Yeah, that's probably about right.
Yeah.
No, a little bit older, I think, by the time she got over. Anyway, so yeah, she didn't leave till I think 1955 or 54.
Okay.
Came to the U.S. So she was there for some time. And
she came over alone?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, through the Catholic relief, and so she had a place in Manhattan Beach as a nanny for a family. And we knew the family later on when we were kids and everything. So she had a place to go and work there. And then she got in with the Polish church and had a roommate and moved out, and then was working and then went to the Polish church and met my dad there. My father was, when the Russians became an ally, everything was taken over, and then there was a certain group of Poles that became part of, it was called the Polish II Corps, Second Corps, and it's a group of military battalions that was like taken from the Soviet camps, and then there was another general, I think his name was Anders, and so he ran that whole, I'm not going to use the right war terms, but anyway, so he ran that whole battalion, and it was it went through all the North African campaign. He was trained in like Iraq, and my dad ended up in the Battle of Monte Cassino, and where that corps, that Polish II, Second Corps, was primarily the one for capturing the Axis and changing the occupation of the Germans on that route going to Rome. And so my dad was part of that, and he was shot twice in 15 minutes, and they dug a grave for him, but he recovered, obviously. And he was in Ravenna for a while recovering, and then he was part of the Polish battalion of the British Army. So he ended up going back to England And he was always wanted to come to America, so he came through Ellis Island.
And what year would he have come through then?
I think it was, like 54, 55, around the same time.
About the same time.
But he was in England for quite a few years.
Would he ever talk about the war, your father?
My father did. My mom did not.
Yeah.
But my dad did, absolutely. And he was also, he just enjoyed life. And I think part of it was like, I survived war. I was shot, whatever. Invite your friends for barbecue. We're barbecuing this weekend. Like, bring them over. And so he was friends with all my friends. And my girlfriends and stuff, because I went to an all-girls school, Immaculate Heart in Hollywood. And all my close girlfriends were like, "Oh my God, your dad was so much fun." And so they still talk about him and stuff. And he died in 83.
Yeah.
He was older, so.
Yeah, so, and he was older than your mom when you...
Yeah, he was. He was about 11 years older than my mom.
I see.
And they were older when we were born. Like, my dad was 47 when I was born, and my mom was 37. So in those days, that was really old.
Oh, yeah, that was super old.
Yeah. And then I have a younger brother still, and an older sister.
And so they meet, they get married.
They meet at the Polish church. My dad, he was always like an actor. He would speak, he would orate. Like, I have programs from in England where people would come to hear him orate, speak, and it has like caricatures of him on it. And he, so he was part of the Polish church, and he was the folk dance troupe leader, and my mom was a dancer.
And is that what she did in America? Did she dance, or what?
No, that was just the folk thing. No, she was a mom. Yeah. I mean, when they were married, my dad ended up being an engraver. Like in metal. At first it was fine art, but then he ended up doing technical engraving. And in those days, you're doing dials and all that. And the tolerance is so tight. And this is before computers. So he was, the foreman of that and was really good at it. So he ended up doing technical engraving and all that. And then he bought properties in LA area. So we'd always had a few properties and things.
And you grew up in Hollywood?
Yep.
In Hollywood.
I was born in Hollywood.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Born in Hollywood.
Well,
it's great. We're right below. It's in Los Feliz is where I'm from.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah, which is fantastic. My parents settled there, which is fantastic. Amazing. Right. I think their first house was in Silver Lake. But anyway, and it's such a neighborhood. People talk about LA, but I go to the market and I see people I've known for 30 years.
It's still a neighborhood, right?
It's very much a neighborhood. We have.
And do you still have that house? Or
yeah.
The house?
Well, not the first house, but the second house, yeah.
Yeah.
My dad, It's a family compound now.
Oh, wow. So you've lived there your whole life?
Yeah. Well, other than going to college, whatever, getting a studio somewhere and, college or moving away, getting a house, renting a house somewhere and, whatever. But back there, yeah.
And so when you're growing up as a kid in Hollywood, which is completely different then, right? I mean, it's kind of out in the boonies a little bit, would you say, Los Feliz?
No.
Back then? Or was it already conglomerated to...
Oh, yeah. No, when I was a kid, it was part of Hollywood. I mean, it's, I guess, considered East Hollywood, but like the high school I went to is 1.5 miles away, and that's in Hollywood, so...
And so you must have been around actors and acting and people like that all the time. Obviously, you married one.
Yeah,
but,
all the time. Even like high school and, it's just part of it. You go to the taco stand and Mark Wahlberg, it might be there getting tacos or whatever. It was just part of it, you know.
It's Hollywood.
Or I have girlfriends who had families had bigger houses in in Hancock Park, and they would use them for filming. So I remember meeting Harrison Ford there or whatever.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Which of course he wouldn't know at all anything.
You might know your paintings. That's one of the things we're here to talk about. Is you're an artist and a painter.
That's right.
We're going to talk about that. But this other part is also very interesting.
I know. And my parents, my dad was, like I said, on the fine art, engraver to start with, and then he went technical. And so they always were part of the arts. Were encouraging us all the time. And they would have properties, and so we'd go, and they would, somebody moved out, they'd want to paint it or something. And so my dad would get the paints, and then he'd also there were 3 of us, 3 watercolors, sets of water, 3 sketchbooks, 3 whatever. Okay, you guys go do the art while we go paint,
Right.
at the property,
Right.
and things. So they were always encouraging us to do art.
And so as a kid, were you entering, were you known as the class artist, that
Yeah.
kind of thing? Yeah. And you were recognized early on with awards or what kind of things?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. In fact, sometimes I look back going, oh yeah, that happened. I submitted there was Barnsdall Art Gallery,
Mm-hmm.
which actually I had my first art class there.
And when did you have that art class?
I think I was five or something.
Okay.
It was really
just like your husband.
Yeah. And I went there, and it was in, Frank Lloyd Wright designed that whole complex. The Barnsdall. And in one of the buildings, I had that art class, and it was a Frank Lloyd Wright building, and it's a mile from our house, and all that. That was my first art class. And then in school I was always the artist in the class, so I would always draw and paint and put up the boards and do all that stuff.
And did you think you were going to be an artist at that point?
I think so. I think I did, but at that time you're always told, well, you have to do something to make money.
Especially, with your parents' history of depression, war, they've seen what it can be and lived it.
Right.
I'm sure they were highly like, you need to make sure you can support yourself.
Well, yes and no. They trusted that we would make good decisions, and I guess we kind of did. So when I first went to, in college, I went to art school for fashion design.
This was Otis?
Yeah. At that time, it was Otis Parsons. It was with Parsons.
Yeah, great school.
Yeah, it was a good school. So then I ended up being a fashion designer, garment industry for like 10 or 11 years.
So when you went to Otis, that's what you went into. You were like, okay. And did you must have liked fashion. You must have liked that stuff.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have.
I think as a kid, I even liked it. I would wrap stuff and create stuff around dolls. And
your mom made her dress out of a shirt, out of a sheet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did she make your clothes for you?
She did make some of our clothes. Yeah.
Yeah.
For special occasions and stuff.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. She was, so they were both really creative. So my dad, even like in the 60s, he's like, yeah, let's go out back in the back room. And, cause we had a garage room that was, and decoupage some, Michelob bottles or something, with daisies in them. And he would always have stuff for us to do. That was creative. And now I look back and he would get home from work and take us to the park or to the museum, or on weekends to the Philharmonic, whatever. And he was older.
Yeah.
He was 60, 57, 60 or something, and dragging us to after work to go and do stuff. So yeah, he's amazing. When I see some of these 40-year-old dads, I'm like, oh my God, go do something with your kids.
Yeah, spend time with them. It makes them who they are.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah,
so it was a lot of fun.
It was, yeah. And it sounds like he was able to transcend the trauma that he had to go through.
I think so. I think he always had always had a smile on his face. He was always really let's have a good time.
Yeah.
And I think it was right. You never know what's going to happen. So yeah, that was him.
Yeah.
My mom's, she carried her trauma with her.
Yeah.
And and I don't even know half the things that probably happened to her.
Oh, you can only imagine.
Yeah. I'm just sure horrible, because, she ended up being manic depressive and, stuff like that. So she just carried it inside. So very different personalities, the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of go, which one do I want to be?
Yeah, right. Well, you don't have any choice. It's going to be the combination of both.
Sure.
They both affect you immensely, and whether you want it to or not, you
Right.
have no control over that part.
Right.
And so when you're in high school, you want to go art, but you're really starting to think fashion.
Yeah. And in high school, I went to Immaculate Heart High School, which was part of, at that time, Immaculate Heart College.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where Sister Corita Kent was from, that college and all that.
Yeah.
So it was really focused on art.
Yes.
There was a big part of that high school was art. So that was fortunate. So yeah, I was an artist there as well. I think I got an award from the Bank of America for something, for art, whatever, something, you'll be artist in the future or something like that.
Right.
But yeah.
And true.
Yeah. And then when I was in art school, I I started working, those are crazy hard hours because when you have art projects, you can't cram. You can't do it fast.
No, not with your making things like that.
And but I remember I got a job doing layout paste up work for California Apparel News. And the reason, because it was in the evening, so you could go to school and then do that. And it was before computers, really, as far as layout paste up. So you're there with the T-square and all that. And I ended up being like a assistant art director. And I was just in school still. So that was pretty good. So I worked with there for a couple years. They
saw something in you.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been very fortunate where even in high school, my summer jobs were doing artwork. So I've worked as an artist or designer my whole life.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And so when you get your degree, I assume you got a degree?
I didn't. I left early. Yeah. You meet somebody and you think you're going to.
Uh-huh.
But anyway.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. And so I ended up going right into the garment industry.
In New York City?
No, in LA.
Oh, in LA. Okay. So you meet somebody, you go ahead and
I would start working.
Rabbit hole. And
right. It was like I couldn't work and do school and,
Right.
It was just, especially art school. Art school saw so many hours. And so I started working and I went found a dress company. I just went around with all my sketches and said, do you manufacture in LA? And sat there door to door, literally. And this one gal was like, have you ever shipped like items in boxes? And I'm like, no. So she's like, go see my partner across the street. So I did that and I go, okay, I'll do this right now, but I'm going to look for a design position. And then they saw my designs and within 6 months I was in the design room.
And this was working for a company?
For a dress manufacturer. I was a designer.
And what was the name of that?
That was originally, it was Singer and Spicer,
uh-huh.
and it was two gals who owned it. They were great. And then I think, and one ended up buying out the other one, which was, I think, Jane Singer. So it was under that label. But then I worked I was there quite a long time and did great.
As a designer, your job was to design dresses or?
Yeah, they were a dress company.
Yeah.
Primarily. I mean, sometimes they would do pants or whatever, but yeah. Primarily
and how long did you work at the Singer place?
Oh my gosh. Quite a few years. I honestly can't remember. Let me think. When did I start there?
Not the thing you normally are asked.
No, I would say it was at least 6 years. It might have been even longer.
Yeah, so a long time.
Yeah, quite some. Yeah.
Yes.
But I also did textile design after that with another company, and then we started a magazine, and I ran that magazine. That was for the garment industry, but it was delivered to buyers and everything prior to market. So I was the associate publisher of that.
And would you write in there, or what was your job?
No, I ended up putting it all together. Okay. I would decide on stories, hire the photographers, the models, everything. I'd have copywriters and editors, and they would, so we'd all put it together. It was a great time. We all got along super well. Bunch of gals, actually, and it was great.
What was the name of the?
Access, with two X's. Before it was whatever, the TV show, I think.
Right.
But yeah, it was great because we did it to, and it was beautiful, big tear sheets. So photographers loved it, doing spreads for it. And we delivered it to thousands of buyers prior to Market Week. So usually all the advertising that was in there were top sellers for companies.
And this is the 80s kind of time frame?
Yeah.
Is this mid to late 80s?
Yes. Let's see. I'd say mid to late 80s.
Was your hair big?
Well, my hair is wavy, so it can get very big. I did have the 80s. Not too much.
But somewhere in the 80s you were doing...
Yeah, let me think of, gosh, when was that? If, let's see. I would say, late 80s. 80 and early 90s.
Yeah.
Early 90s, yeah.
And are you drawing or painting or doing anything,
my own stuff?
Yes.
Not really. Some drawings.
I mean, I know you're working, doing these other things, which are, I'm sure, creative.
Right. So I'm doing clothing, sketching, whatever.
Right, you're sketching all the time. Probably.
And when you're sketching like that, it's all technical. You're putting in the seams, you're putting in whatever, you're having the fittings, you're judging the lengths and the sizes and pinching these 1/4 inch or, and so it's a lot of, technical stuff as well as just the creative. But then I did textile design, and that was pretty fun. So I was working for a big company then. And I was the art director, and they had 7 divisions, and that was,
wow.
I think that company was about 120 million or something.
Yeah, what's the name of that company?
It was Jonathan Martin, but they had a bunch of divisions, and so I had a couple artists who worked for me as well. But we did all the textiles, so all those divisions would need prints or something. So you have to put them in repeat and everything. And those days it was all hand painted, right, and the repeats and everything. So,
and you were controlling all the artists that would be bringing you designs?
Yeah. You have people bring like from studios all over, from Cuomo, from everywhere, and they're bringing in art, and then sometimes I would buy it, sometimes the designers would buy it, and then we'd have to put it in repeats. And you were enjoying yourself? You had fun? Well, when you're doing design work the whole time, it's great. Yeah. Then the garment industry gets a little tiring, so I left that. It's when the garment industry, I tell people sometimes I would have days where I'd have 50 deadlines in one day. 50. Ooh. Yeah, and it was all kinds. It was from shipping out this and this, from trim that needs this needs shoulder pads. And it's like, today it has to be done. Go send out sketches to Bloomingdale, send out, a sample. They want that, and this fabric has to get out today, Yeah. That'll drain you very quickly. Yeah. Yeah. It was amazing. So I luckily, I guess I am a multitasker. So yeah, I was able to do it. You could deal with all that stimuli coming in. Yeah. But after a while, it's like, this is just too hard for somebody else. Yeah, drain you. Yeah, too much. Yeah, completely. And so, but it was fun. It was great. At some point in time, you go, okay, I'm gonna do something else. Right. And what was that moment, or was there a moment? It was. I was supposed to do PR for a company in the garment industry, and they were like, I'm not ready for it yet. It was going to be marketing and the artwork and all that stuff, and I was like, oh, that'll be fun, and they were like, we're not ready to go yet. Can you wait like a couple of months? And I'm like, sure. I'm going to take 2 months off. Yay. And then they're like, we lost all our production with this big denim company, so we have to wait 2 more months. And I'm like, all right, well, I probably have to do something now. Yeah, 4 months without money. So some friend of mine was selling AT&T commercial. And he's like, just go do this job. And I'm like, I can't sell. I can't do that. I've never done that. I've done everything but, He's like, oh, you can do it. So I'm like, all right, it's just going to be 2 months. I'll do it. And the hours were great. It was just like till 1, or whatever, 8 to 1. And then I started painting. And then in the meantime, I ended up doing super well. AT&T were interviewing me after I left there to come work for them. I was one of the top 10 people in their whole thing, commercial AT&T in the U.S. Oh my God! It was because I would get my own data from areas that they had like crappy AT&T, crappy 1-800 service, right, and stuff. And so usually you're on a computer and all that, and I just got my own stuff and would call in areas that didn't. Well, you've been an art director. You've run lots of people. You had 50 deadlines a day. I mean, this is, you're just taking that skill set into a different exactly. And thing. So at that point, I was like, okay, this is even easier because I only had to work like an hour. And then I would sit there and look at my art books in like a little cubby, and then I'd go and paint. And I started doing paintings, and those were more like for interiors, more classic, like Renaissance-y kind of things. Figurative and all that. A lot of loose, untreated canvas and things, and very ethereal. What time frame is this? That's mid-90s.
Mid-90s. So you're going back to your roots. Did you know what you're going to do with that, or it just made you feel good?
No, I would do it, and then I would start like selling them, and I'd go into like a swap meet, and then people would ask me to come and do customs for them, or they like that one, but they want it in this 9x4-inch niche. Can you make the same one and whatever? So I just started doing paintings for interiors.
Yeah,
it was great.
And selling at the.
I went to the Roseville swap meet like 3 times, and it looked pretty good. I had all the stuff hanging and nice kiln rug, some potted plants, whatever. It looked great, and just doing that 3 times, I had calls for like 4 years.
I can see it, yeah.
From people buying it. I saw this at my friend's house. I want one. I have this. I liked this.
Yeah, it's a crazy swap meet. That Rose Bowl thing is just,
I mean, there's so much stuff there.
Yeah, I used to occasionally go out there because I could just find tons of material. This is more when the internet really wasn't.
Right, right. Yeah, same.
Now when I go out there, it's less. It's been a while, but it was like, oh, this not anything. A lot of the great early antiques things and stuff, they're not so much out there anymore. Right. They're all.
Well, eBay changed all that
everything
too.
changed that. Yeah. But I can remember, and the people that show up are, everybody, right? I mean, anybody could show up. Famous and wealthy people.
It was amazing how
still do, I'm sure.
Yeah, how I would get calls for years, and just like they would tell somebody or see something or remember or like, oh, I still have her card or something. Yeah, so it was great. So I started doing that. And I was doing that when Mike and I met, and then he is an actor and writer and all that, and so we started doing, in directs and some plays.
And this is kind of like mid to late 90s?
Late 90s.
Yeah.
And then, so I would end up doing set design and some costume or whatever, and then we started doing interiors, and so we would do a lot of retail stores together, and he's a woodworker. Did you talk about his woodworking?
A little bit.
He's an excellent woodworker.
Yeah, there you go.
But so we would do, and I would design the interiors, and so we did a lot of retail stores and then people's homes too, and all that. Yeah.
So you would work together as a team to kind of design the insides of people's homes even?
Sometimes, homes, but often it was like retail, which is even more fun because it's, when somebody lives in a space, it's different than like, let's just be creative and fantasy and stuff. Yeah. So we did a lot of stores, and there's like people would go into our stores and be like, I want whoever did this store. And we would use a lot of like salvaged items and things like that, wood and all that. And in those days, and then we would get calls. We weren't competing with anyone. They would be like, I want this. So let's call them. And we didn't have to like bid for a job or whatever. So and also we were doing it, and then we were doing plays and things and all that. And then I would paint some. Yeah.
The good times.
We still do it. I mean, we still do it. Mike had done a play we did a few years back, 2017, in Missouri at a college.
Yeah, that was the Pyle.
The Ernie Pyle play. Yeah. That was great.
Yeah, he was telling me about that. So for those who are listening to it, I don't know which comes out first, but we interviewed her husband earlier today, who is an actor and a writer and a podcast developer and a woodworker and other things too. So I have the whole story, the whole component. I didn't know where Mike fit in on this, but now I know.
We met in 98.
98.
So this couple months ago was 25 years
at that time. No. I know. I mean, because he was on all these soap operas and
right. Such. No, I didn't even know he was an actor. We met through mutual friends. We had my neighbors, and then were like neighbors of where he was living or something, and so I know and then he came and like painted the trim on the apartment next door to our house, and that's where I'm like, well, I'll get a bid from them.
Right.
And so we went with that, and we always joke. And he never left, and there's still threshold that needs painting. So now we're going to paint it all again. But that was 25 years ago.
Yes. So, and at this point, so this is late 90s, you're starting to do interiors, you're doing things with your husband now as well. Is there a point, when do you start going, maybe I should do gallery work, maybe I want to do this as a living?
Yeah.
versus what you were doing? Or
It's
was it?
It kind of just crept up on us. I started doing these illustrations when we were doing the play in Missouri, his play. I started doing these characters like of people, and I did just pen and ink.
Yeah.
I don't even think I have examples of them, but they're pretty fun. But anyway, so I started doing them, and I was just fascinated with how you can take something and you change it, and suddenly the person looks sleepy or whatever, just simple stuff. But I would just do pen and ink and not sketch or erase or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes their hands would do crazy things, and they would make me laugh. And I was doing this while he was doing the play, and I would just sit there in the theater and sketching these things, and just in a big book, big sketchbook. I have hundreds of them, and then I started painting them, and I'll have to look to see if I have them. I don't know if I do. I don't think I do. And
you have something like that on your website. The earliest stuff.
Yeah,
like figures. Some
the head was
figures.
Right.
Yeah.
I call them head west because they're all facing west.
Yeah, there you go.
And and they're kind of,
because I did look at this.
Oh yeah, and literally they all just made me laugh. So I started painting them, and then my painting, I would take them to this children's store that was like in the neighborhood. He was like, "Yeah, these are great. Okay, I could do something with these." He goes, "The painting is great," and I thought, "Okay, that's cool." So I just kept on painting them, and it was plus doing our other things, but I would still do those, and I think it really just got me painting every day
started
completely. And so there was actually, when we were talking about Barnsdall, there was in the high school, I got into a show there at Barnsdall at the gallery, and they used to have a festival there where they'd have the art show on the easels out in the yard, and when I went, mine was inside, and I was surprised by it, and it was just a watercolor, kind of my hands holding a flower or something. But yeah, it was, so that was also a kind of like a
pivotal
little nugget. But anyway, so then I was doing all these paintings, and I think it just got my painting, and I started doing still lifes, and those were primarily of Native American and Mexican trinkets, right? All the tourist items, which I'm drawn to because of all the work and the handcraft that you can see in it, that are just the tourist items. And granted, some people made good living, some people eked out a living, whatever, but there's still that hand quality in that. So I loved that. And you
have a picture of your studio, I think, that's on your website. That you can see all the.
I have a bunch of them.
Little, Mexican
potteries and things. Stuff. Yeah, I have big collections, and I also started collecting the tooled leather at that time too. So some of those are in like those old original still lifes. And then we started doing, with Mike's parents, we have this vacation rental in the wine country in Temecula. And so originally his parents had wanted to sell that property, and then it was empty. And we decided to make it a vacation rental. At the same time, built another house for them. And so between the two, it's like a house and a casita. It's about 3,000 square feet to furnish. So I'm like, well, I got a lot of wall space here to fill up. So I just started doing all the still lifes and hanging them on the walls and doing landscapes and all that. And I had it's the part of Southern California was all ranchos, was all Mexico at the time. That wine country there, it was, like I said, it was all ranchos. Sometimes I don't get where there's like a winery that has like a Tuscan feeling in Southern California. I'm like, there's all this history here. Anyway, so we love the whole Southern California history. So
that house became your little museum, basically gallery, really, in a weird way. Yeah. Did you make sales when people would rent out the house and go,
I never had prices or whatever. All my friends would say, why don't you put them on there? But I do. Yeah, I have sold stuff. I have some things, smaller ones in like an Etsy shop and stuff. And anyway, so I just started doing them. And then I love the that aspect of that handwork, which got me to those saddles
Mm-hmm.
of the tooled leather and that craft that's in there. And I just love it. I don't get bored of it.
And that's relatively new. The leather stuff.
Probably like the last 4 years or so.
Yeah, that's new.
5 years, yeah.
Yeah, because that's what I saw and really resonated with me. I was like, oh, this is very different and unique.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're big, so it's like I'm taking a small little eye view of something and then expanding it really large.
Of saddles and tack and
Primarily, I love the historic and the vintage stuff with all the work. But the way my take is that it's a cowboy or whatever. They buy this. They put good money, a lot of money into this utilitarian object that they have to sit on and ride on. But they want it beautiful, and it's all the work that's put into it, and so I think what they see is what I see. They're on it; they see that close up. We might see them off in a distance in a great landscape, but they're looking at that.
Right, and so it might be the image area might be 3 to 4 inches, but the paintings themselves could be 3 to 4 feet.
Right.
Yeah, blown up. Yeah,
right.
That's what works for it. That's why
I think so too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so too. It really makes you look differently at.
Yeah, and each one's different because it's different imagery, different types of saddles, and they all have their own signature look and or voice, which is.
I think so.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many, and and the ones that I know. I mean, obviously, sometimes you find a saddle that's beat up somewhere, like somebody's selling it at courtside out in the dirt or whatever.
Right.
And I have a few of those in there. But if I know who made it, I try to include that, and because that's history too of where it came from the 1890s, from a certain saddle maker or a certain area. Yeah.
Yeah. When I first saw them I think it was on your phone, maybe even. Or on the internet, wherever I first saw them, I go, is that leather? I mean, is it like actually leather, right? So, which is good. I mean, it was like, I couldn't tell. At first I was like, oh no, those are paintings.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not leather work that's put together, but it's actually paintings.
I always have the people, when I do a show, about 20 times or 10 times a day, they'll come in going, oh, I can smell the leather. Like they're the first ones to say.
They think it is actually leather.
Yeah, some do.
Actually, you should bring some fresh leather and just have it kind of somewhere behind the painting or something.
I'm sure there's a leather candle I could
and
fire up.
Like, God, it even smells like leather. And you go, if you really do it right, it'll bring up those other sensations.
It's fun. I still am just so captivated by it, and there's so many out there, so I have more to do.
Oh, yeah, right? I mean, and you could translate that to other. I'm sure that will happen.
Yeah.
That at some point you'll be like, I don't even know what it'll be. It could be parts of cars or pottery or who knows.
Right.
I could see pottery just beautiful pottery shards that are all just combined or whatever. I mean, there's endless things that you could do. It makes sense. You've done fashion, you've done interior designs, you've done paintings. It seems like a natural composition coming together in your life to found kind of, I'll call it your voice. I don't know if that's a fair statement, but it seems that way.
The voice right now.
Yeah, right. It's the voice right now. And you're starting to get found and winning awards. Like you won Best of Show. Tell people what that was.
Yeah, I won. Actually starting about this time last year, there was a couple online shows that I was in. Right. And so I won, it was for bronze medals in, one was a still life competition. The other one was realism competition. And then, but this year, I'm in the Wildflower Show. That's one that you were a juror for. Yes. And so I won Members' Choice in that, which was great because that's, from your peers. And I did get accepted to the Oil Painters of America Western Regional Show. That was in Salt Lake City in October. And I also was in the New Western Art Show. Right. That was with Western Gallery.
That's where you got Best
with George Irwin.
And
I got Best in Show in that one. Yeah, which was exciting and shocking, but that was fun.
And then Western Art Collectors potentially wanting to.
Yeah, they're probably going to include me in an issue.
Yeah.
And now I'm here because of the Mountain Oyster Show.
Yeah. So gallerists out there,
right?
When you want to find somebody that's still potentially you can grab, you might want to go check out our website.
That's right.
And see, that's true, though. I mean,
it is.
I could see your work being highly sellable, quite frankly.
Well, I think it, I think for a lot of people, they like the Western thing, but they were not sure about hanging it in their house.
Yeah, I get it.
And I think my design background has enough where I think it's a design element.
Yeah.
That gives it that, but isn't in your face cowboy.
Yeah, it's not cowboy with a yellow slicker.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you frame it in a certain way, especially a minimalistic frame, it can take on very much that component of a minimalistic kind of.
Right. I mean, I think it crosses over to boho and whatever, any type of interior.
It does have its own niche, I think.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
There are people that do still lifes, and we have people that do that. Lisa Danielle does beautiful ones, but it's still, this is different. Yeah, this is different.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That's coming from you. That means a lot to me.
Yeah, no, I saw it. That's why you're on the show. And so right now you've got Mountain Oyster. Is this
right this weekend?
This won't air when it's going, but it'll probably still be up. I think they keep that up for about a month, maybe.
I think till the end of January.
Yeah, so you'll be able, if you're in
Tucson. I have one small piece in there. It's a stirrup that I did.
That'll sell for sure.
Yeah.
You just put one in, how come out more?
I think that's what they chose. I think also my other ones are huge.
They're big. Yeah, that's true. And they do in the wall spaces. Stuff.
Right. They don't have, So, but anyway.
And so if people want to find you, how do they find your work?
They can look up my name, Danuta Tomzynski, and all my sites will come up. So it'll be everything from an Etsy shop to Spoonflower fabrics that I've designed to my regular website, my Instagram,
and
all of it.
And your Instagram's your name too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there is advantages to having a hard name.
I know. It's just me. So, my Tomzynski side of my family is very tight, very small.
Yes.
It's not a common name. And so pretty much any Tomzynski is a close relative of mine.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So, and most of them are in Poland. Yes. In Poland, I have a couple cousins here and some family in France. And that's it. Oh, in England. Yeah.
Yes. And so, are you showing at galleries as well at this point?
No, I don't have like a gallery representation. I mean, other than the ones that were online.
Yeah. And the ones that you were invited to.
I mean, I still have a piece up in Brushworks Gallery in Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
So I have one still there from the Oil Painters of America show. And so I still have that one. And that's about it.
Yeah. And so just reaching those people that are out there that may be starting their careers later in life, which you did for this, what would you tell them? Would you give them advice on how to navigate that world? You're clearly navigating it.
Yeah. It's very different, compared to like if I had thought about doing this when I was younger, because of all the internet stuff and stuff that you can publish yourself and all that. So keep doing it. Join the groups. Join the societies and get into shows, and you have to submit to shows. And for a long time, I didn't, because I was like, oh, maybe they'll find me, whatever. But it's a lot. It's another job. It's
a business.
Yeah, it really is. So it's I focused myself the last year to be like, I got to do it.
Right.
Otherwise, yeah.
That's critically important.
It is.
And getting out there and meeting people like myself, even.
Yeah.
And going, hey, here, this is me. You may know who I am, but
exactly. The first time Mike and I came through here, it was like a few years ago, and we just had those. We were curious about these blankets we had picked up. Do you remember that with those?
Well, I remember our discussion. I don't remember the blankets, but I remember our discussion.
Well, we kept those. I had small saddle paintings in the car, and I was like, get them and show them? Do I get them and show them? But they were the smaller ones, where the big ones are the ones that really I think are the right thing. And I was like, no, but I had them in the car that time, and I was so tempted to show you. And I think you probably would have gone, well, the painting's good.
Yeah, who knows? You don't know. And for me at least, I mean, people do that all the time, and it's fine,
Yeah.
you know. And if I can't for whatever reason, I'll say, oh, well, send me, you know. Usually, if they have their painting, I said, just bring it in. Let's take a look.
Yeah.
Because you don't know.
Right.
I mean, as a gallerist, you don't know.
You don't know.
You know,
Right.
and it has happened. It has happened. Whitney
Right.
Gardner. It happened.
Oh, did she bring stuff in?
And she
I
was.
think she's in the Mountain Oyster this year. Is she?
Yeah, she is.
Is she?
I
So
mean,
I get to meet her.
yeah.
It'll
I
be fun.
mean, because you can have a guttural reaction.
Yeah,
to
her
something.
paintings are beautiful.
And just go, oh, wow, this is something, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Even Dennis, well, a couple of people. Dennis Tomzynski brought, you know, I'd seen one of his paintings. I said, just bring them all. I want to see what they all look like.
Oh,
not
really?
Just one.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
because I can't tell usually just one.
Sure.
And he brought in like 20 paintings, and you know, because I said, you know, I'll represent you, and he goes, well, which one do you want? And I go, all of them.
Did you really? Wow.
Yeah, we
That's
sold
great.
all of them. Yeah, and
They're
yes.
beautiful.
And Stephen Datz also. I knew who Stephen Datz was, but he brought in a group of paintings. Most of them were plein air, but he brought in one that was not. And it was of the Catalina Mountains, and it was in his more, you know, the style that he does is fractional.
Does he live here?
No.
Oh.
No. I think he may have been came for the Mountain Oyster. I don't know.
Right.
And was like, I can sell that. That I relate to. What's that?
Right.
You know, and he goes, yeah, I'm just starting to do this, and I really like it. And I'm like, yeah, that's something. That's
neat.
Yeah, and he kind of just went from there, and you know, and he's just, oh my God, that guy's so good. He's just so good.
Yeah,
just shockingly good. But yes, so yes, pull him out of the trunk.
I know, right? I know.
Pull him out of the trunk and
I
just.
know.
And not be afraid, I think, is the other thing.
Well, and I just started those, and I really liked the big ones, and then I did a couple of small ones. So I didn't feel representational.
Yes.
Of what I really felt that would be.
Yeah, you might not have been where you wanted to show it too, right?
Right.
Your inner voice says, nah, it's not there.
Right.
It's close,
right.
But I know me. I mean, you're a mature person who knows, you've been around the block on a lot of different things.
Right.
You've worked with a lot of major companies. You've done a lot of things. You've had a lot of responsibilities. You probably kind of know intuitively what.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And then you come back and see me again. And
there you go.
Yeah, I was like, yeah. I mean, whether I represent somebody or not, if they're an interesting, unique person, have a unique interest, view. I mean, I would be surprised if you're not in a gallery in the next 6 months or less when somebody sees and goes, oh yeah, why aren't we showing this person's work?
Right. Yeah, I'm just in that one up in Salt Lake City right now, Brushworks. Yeah, but that's not really like a gallery. I mean, just all my work, you know.
Yeah. No, you have a distinctive style for sure, and you can paint. Yeah, that's the other critical component. You have to be able to paint. So what's next? Anything that you can talk about?
No, well, I have a collaboration next year with a clothing line. Mm-hmm. That's all I can say about that. Yep. And then, something in Western Art Collector maybe in January. Yeah. And which looks good. And we'll see what else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, things. You have such a multi-talented husband. I have a feeling he may drag you into some of those projects. I know.
As well. It's always so much fun. We it's crazy that we've worked to get together so much, so closely on so many things, in plays and sets and film even, and he did a horror film one time, and I did production design on that, and just all these things and set design, and but even like 24/7 we can work together and not get sick of each other.
Yeah, that can be. I work with my wife. I have for 23 years. Yeah. Yeah, in one day, and no, I can actually tell you about. Yeah, but it can work. Yeah, but it's sometimes challenging.
Yeah, well, if you have right. I mean, the things. Luckily, we're not very. He's dramatic on stage and on film and on TV, but in real life, he's not so dramatic. Yeah. So that works.
Yeah, that must be. Being married to an actor, you probably know him so well you could tell if he's acting. But at some point, he can.
No, he's a very genuine person when it comes to just regular life.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. No, I didn't feel any acting component at all when
Right.
we talked at all. Zero.
Right. No.
Because there probably wasn't any. It was, we're talking,
Yeah.
the realities of life, just
Right.
like you and I are.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Anything else you would like to talk about or we missed of your life that's interesting?
I'll probably leave and think of
I
something, but
should
no.
have thanked such and such person.
Oh, thank you. No, I think I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as that goes. I mean, it's always great to have great, peers and influences and family. I have a great family, my brother and sister. And I think growing up without extended family, because they were all in Europe,
Yeah.
that it made us tight.
I bet.
And so we have a really close family. My sister has 5 children and my brother has 2. And Mike and I are like close with all of them. I mean, they're all adults. The youngest is like
Right.
30 or something. And where we travel together and hang out and all that. So I'm very fortunate that we have a family that
is a family.
is big and like each other.
Yeah.
And hang out together.
I have a feeling some of that comes from your father.
Oh, for sure it does.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That,
Absolutely. He was just the entertaining and joyous to be around.
Yeah.
And so we all kind of have, and it had a great sense of humor and obviously a presence, being like an actor himself or whatever.
Right.
And so, yeah, we all love that.
And I'm sure just understanding the importance of family, to him and life and living, and that those are the components that make life, that make the world what's important. I could just from what you tell me and how I see your face react to him,
Right. It was, at one time, since he was older, he was thinking about retiring, and we were just starting like high school, and he thought, Poland is different now. Let's think about moving there. And so we were like, what?
I bet.
All of us were a little, Hollywood, whatever, spoiled. And we're like, wait, what? And he goes, let's just try it. Let's just go. Maybe we'll stay, maybe we won't. And so we lived in Poland for a year.
Oh, you did? You went?
When it was still communist.
Oh, wow. What year was this?
73, 74.
And what year in high school were you?
Freshman. I mean, well, no, I would have been an 8th grader.
Oh, that's monumentally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we lived with different family members because housing was like dumb there.
Yeah.
In those years. And, everybody knew we were in town. It was a small town in called Częstochowa, which is where they do a lot of pilgrimages, and it's very Catholic. That
and clearly you could speak Polish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we went to school.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. What was that like?
It was, you realize, wow, it was just amazing. I think I had 14 subjects, and we went to half day on Saturday.
Jeez.
And so as an 8th grader, I had chemistry, biology, physics, Russian, and Polish, of course, and algebra and algebra and geometry as an 8th grader. Like, that stuff you don't even get until high school here.
Mm-hmm.
And then, history and, all the whatever, history, and then like a current events or something. I forget. But it was a lot. It was like, wow, I can handle that. And I did okay, which was amazing with the language difference and everything. But yeah, we ended up all learning how to read and really speak well. Now we don't speak that much. So when I meet people and stuff, I do it, but I would never get lost in Poland or whatever.
And did you take a family vote after the year of whether to go back to?
After the year, my dad he was working, and then he would come over and visit and stuff, and so we were there with my mom. And
so he didn't have to go over the whole time.
Well, he kind of was like, "Yeah, this isn't
working."
We're like, "This isn't going to happen. Yeah. There's no way." Like, and especially then it was still communist. So luckily I had certain family members that were well off, but everybody would line up at the butcher when the butcher got delivery, and you're there getting your meat, and you're in a big, it was just like, not you go to the market and pick up what you need. Right.
It's sure not Hollywood.
No, surely not Hollywood.
Right.
So, and there was a ton of things like that was just, hard life for them. Yeah. And it was nothing that we could relate to.
How old were your siblings that were in
My
that?
sister she was in high school. She was like 17, I think. 16, 17.
Like a junior, maybe.
17, yeah, she was a junior. And then my brother was a year and a half younger, so he was like in 7th grade.
Yeah. So for your sister especially, that had to probably be tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was, but they kind of, like, she would get on the bus and you'd have to wear like a little patch on your arm from what school you were in, like the number of the school, which is weird. But anyway, so she'd get on the bus to go home, and somebody, like a boy, would come up and go, "Hey, I hear you have an American girl in your school." Right. And she's like, "Yes, I do." "Yes, there is," or something. Right. And he goes, "Oh, can you tell me what she's like or whatever?" And she's like, "I can show you her picture." And so she pulled out her passport and showed it. And he was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." Like, Yeah. So she ended up being a little bit of a celebrity kind of thing. Yeah, so I think that counteracted a little bit of it.
Might have been a very positive thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was kind of fun.
Her ego of who she was.
Right. So yeah. I mean, when you're in grade school, it's like nobody really cares. But high school's a little more,
Did she graduate from that high school, or did she go back to U.S.?
We went back to the U.S. and she had her last year at Immaculate Heart, where I was in high school. She was in high school there first 3 years, and then junior was in Poland, and then the last year she was there at the same.
And how do you think that year affected you and your family?
Oh, it's living in Poland?
Yeah.
I think, once we realized that we're not living there, then it was like, okay, let's just have fun.
Yeah, okay.
Let's go up to so we went to, like, my sister and I went up to the resort town up on the Baltic. That was a resort that they say, like, the Beatles played there years ago, Anyway, so we would do that for like summer and of course the dollar went a long way. $100 was like $2,000 or something, so it was fun. It was a lot of fun. Like I said, once we realized we weren't
that you were going to be Polish citizens.
Right. So then it's great. Yeah, which I actually could be a Polish citizen, I guess, with both my parents being there. I could get, I'm
sure you could get, I don't know if I want to at this moment, since Ukraine is being pushed on and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a couple of cousins here now, and one with their families, and then another cousin. They're all engineers and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Hard pushers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you just, that I think the Eastern Bloc has people that can do that engineering thing.
Yeah.
There's something about that,
Yeah. And
play chess.
Yeah. I don't know about that, but
right.
Yeah, but wouldn't surprise me. They had to survive a lot of things, bad things.
Yeah.
That makes you want to succeed and not ever have to go that way.
Right.
So I'm sure that is in you from your mom and dad.
I think so. I think we have a frugality that happened that was like, you don't throw stuff away, and also buying quality, and so you don't have to, throw it away. And so that stuff. We both have a collecting gene, both actually Mike and I, from our parents. His grandparents went through like the Depression and all that. So he got that from his grandfather. And then my parents, they tried to not throw away things.
Oh yeah, from that generation, especially from where they were. But mine same way.
Right.
Turn the light off.
Right.
Always.
Exactly.
I have to turn the light off. I can't not do it.
Right. Don't waste.
Those things, don't waste. Waste not, what not.
Right. Even today, you see stuff that you go and you're like, how long is that going to last? Not long.
Right. It does amaze me when you go, wow, I've replaced like 2 can openers in the last 3 years. It's like, wow, you'd think those would last longer. The ones from the 50s seem like they did.
I still buy those. Those old ones. If I find them like at an estate sale or whatever, they last and work.
I know.
One's in the camping kit, one's in,
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. All right. Danuta, thank you so much for
Thank you,
coming on.
This is great.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, and I'll try to get over and see your work at the Mountain Oyster.
Are you going to come?
Unless you got 2 little paintings in your trunk.
I don't today.
See?
Are,
There you go.
are you going to go to the show?
I'm going to try to get over and look at the work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we have an opening tonight, so.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
That work looks great.
Yeah, Josh Gibson.
You're having an opening. I saw a lot of red dots in there.
Yeah, he's like probably 70% of the show sold out.
That's amazing.
I know, he's good.
It's
He's
great.
talented
It's
kid.
great.
Yeah, it's nice. And 31.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
I know,
Wow.
right?
A lifetime ago.
Yeah, I know. Yes, 2 lifetimes actually. So, all right, very good. I'll let
It's
you.
great.
I'm sure you have a dinner tonight, probably, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got things you've got to do and all sorts of stuff. So I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Again, you heard it here. She doesn't have a gallery out there just waiting. Go to her website.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Thank you again.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.